Hey heathens of YouTube, Mishka Valhalla here. Just out here on a nice hike, climbed up a tiny mountain, basically a big hill, but I had fun doing it. Saw a baby deer. I'll show you a picture after the video. Or right now. But anyway, I just wanted to sort of talk more on the runes in this video. I know I took a little break to talk about other topics, but that's gonna happen. Nothing new there. So I wanted to move on to the Rune Ansuz. Excuse that mosquito. There's like mosquitoes everywhere. The Rune Ansuz is, of course, the rune of communication. Ansuz is also the rune of the ancestors and the rune of the All-Father, of course, a rune of ancestral understanding as a whole. So it's basically about, this is a very ancestral heavy rune. So this is going to be focusing on a lot of memory, a lot of general overall communication with the land, the spirits, and even the gods. Ansuz, or the Ansur, or the Aesir, are the gods. The Aesir being particularly the gods of the heavens, and of the wind, and of war. And those gods are typically, just of course part of the whole, spectrum, part of the whole world. Excuse me, this bug is like disturbing the camera. In many ways, I know that all the runes can be compared to certain mythological figures or entities. And I know that Ansuz does make people think about the All-Father, or Odin, who wasn't always the All-Father, at least not for every Germanic or Norse tribe. But he was definitely a hierarchical god of the heavens, an ancestral god. Many kings were said to trace back their lineage to him, including the god Yngvi. And again, these gods could very well be, ancestors, but ancestors that, of course, achieved their full state of transformation, and they sought the knowledge they needed to essentially become gods. But other than that, I would compare personally the Rune Ansuz to the spirit or the entity Radatoskr. And many people don't talk about Radatoskr a lot because he's seen as sort of like a chaotic animal, a squirrel, that runs up and down the world tree and taunts the eagle in Asgard. And so the eagle basically shakes the branches, out in rage, and essentially it causes damage to the world tree. And of course, the squirrel Radatoskr goes all the way down to the underworld where Nidhogg is. And Nidhogg is there, chilling at the roots of Yggdrasil, doing his thing, decomposing bodies, and while he's doing that, Radatoskr comes down and, spreads more gossip about what Eagle says, about the dragon, Nidhogg. And so Nidhogg gets angry, and out of his anger, he chews on the roots. So in a way, this kind of shows that no matter how powerful you are, you'll always cause damage to something you protect or something you love, especially when you give in to gossip. Excuse me, that's my dog. She's sitting on the tree. I'm propping my camera on. But Radatoskr, very much a entity of communication, sort of spreading the word. In older sources, he could have very well been, or at least in older times, excuse me, he could have very well been, a messenger god of sorts. But of course, as more humanoid gods got more popular, especially as Christianity gained more momentum and affected the societies around them, and of course, classical Roman and Greco-Roman architecture and culture did, of course, affect other parts of Europe, but in ancient times in general, there was more of a focus, before more humanoid gods, on more animalistic gods, such as, could have been very much Fenrir, Radatoskr, Nidhogg, the eagle on Yggdrasil, and of course, or Sleipnir, you know, countless other animals that are seen in the stories. You know, they're spoken of with great renown in the Poetic Edda. You know, such as like Garm, you know, being foremost of the hounds, and you know, Rada Toskar could very well be foremost, you know, of the rats or of the squirrels, or rodents in general. You know, just my own personal takes and theories. But you know, I guess the lesson in that, if the rune is reversed, you know, that's the more chaotic side of Rada Toskar. You know, it's basically, you know, fooling you, you know, spreading gossip, you know, hiding the full truth, which happens a lot, you know, and it has always happened. You know, now we can actually write things down and prove things with evidence, you know, more so than we used to be able to, especially in an oral tradition. But, you know, essentially, yeah. If the rune is right side up in the reading, it's typically saying communication is flowing well. If you're communicating with your ancestors, they will give you wisdom or knowledge. Same can be said for the gods. You know, being very well could be our ancestors as well. And of course, I will, like I said, I'll touch more on, you know, the Rakar and the Jotuns and the Yasir and Vanir, and how it seems, you know, their worship could have been, you know, panned out throughout history. Because I know that, you know, in the beginning there was more animalistic gods, and then they moved on to more humanoid gods over time, you know, but they still had animalistic traits, you know, and, you know, the Norse gods being a fine example, you know, having a lot of animal companions, you know, they're still very animistic, they're very nature-based. So, you know, opposed to Christianity or a strictly sky-based religion, you know, where the focus is not on the earth, it's on the sky and where we can be in the sky and the perfection of the sky. But other than that, you know, that could be pouring in my own personal bias since I am very earth-based. But it was definitely more common back then than it is now, since, you know, there's a fear of going into the underworld due to the Christianization of Western culture, many cultures in general. And my dog's like rolling in the sticks. But yeah, so I get this rune a lot when I'm doing when I get relationship questions from people. You know, they're asking about the relationship. If it's right side up, it's a good sign. It means that if y'all keep communicating, things will be fine. But if it's reversed, of course, you know, there could be a chance of gossip, a distortion of the truth. You know, things aren't clear. You know, that communication is being blocked somehow, and it needs to be fixed, and you need to pay attention to it. But yeah. So I think those are my ramblings for now on the Rune Ansuz. I hope this was helpful. I will get more into ancestral worship since we are on the Rune Ansuz. I will make a video about that. But until then, stay safe, everybody. Go out into the wild and explore. Hail and stay safe.